Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks coming to you with another bench update. We're working on the Revell 1970 Pontiac Firebird for Pops, as well as the Monogram 1969 Dodge Super Bee we're doing as a memorial for Mitchel at Insomnia Hobbies. There's not a whole lot of update. We do have some stuff done, so we are going to have an update. But it's been kind of a short weekend for me, and it's going to be a short week. So on Friday, the 1st, I had to have a tooth removed, so I did not get much of anything done Friday. I did a little bit Saturday. I've done some today. Today is Sunday. But that's probably going to be the extent of my building for the week, because on Wednesday, when I get home from work, I'm coming home, we're hopping in my wife's car, and we are headed to San Antonio. She and I are just getting away for a little bit. So we're going to have a fun 4-day weekend down there, come back up Sunday, and then, I'm just not going to get any build done next weekend either. But I did want to get some done, and I wanted to get a video to you. So let's go ahead and get the camera flipped around, and let's see what we've got. Alright guys, as usual, we're going to start with the Firebird. Now we don't have anything done with the engine as we are still waiting on the pulleys from off the sprue. He shipped them off. They're currently sitting in customs, so we're just waiting for customs to release them so that I can get a hold of them. Now, there are a few things that we did take care of though. If you remember, I told you I had some issues with the wheel fitment, and I didn't really like how my 3D printed wheels and tires were sitting. So I have gone in and I have 3D printed the wheels again as 17s, which match the kit wheels, and I trimmed up the inside of the tire so that I can slide those in, and everything fits in a lot nicer now. We also extended the backside a little bit like the kit wheel does. So now the tires sit right on the edge of the fender well, just like I like them. And that's going to look a lot nicer with that wheel gap. That is just so much better than what we had. Especially the fronts, because if you remember, what we had going on with these fronts was about that far off. And just that gigantic gap. Like, that's insane. So we do have that sorted, and I think that's going to work out. Alright, so next on the Pops build is the interior, which we have started on. So we primed everything in Mr. Surfacer 1500 white. I then painted everything with the LP39 Racing White. This is a nice creamy off-white, which is very similar to the color that they use in the 70s. A lot of cars, especially these Pontiac Firebirds, had kind of a creamier off-white, not a really bright white. And then we went with the dark blue, which we got by custom mixing some Tamiya LP6, 1 milliliter of LP6, to 20 drops of LP5 semi-gloss black. That gets us that mix right there. So I really think that blue looks nice. We drop this up into the interior. I think that's going to look really good with that blue on the outside. So I am happy with that. I've also used the navy blue flocking from Flocking Unlimited. Did a little bit of bare metal foil work in here. Now all of this is airbrushed with the exception of the outer edge line here and over here. I just could not mask that correctly with the way that door panel sits in there. So I took my mechanical pencil, I dipped it in that paint mix, and I just very carefully drew it in as best as I could. It's a little messy, but I think it'll be okay once you get it actually in the car. You're not going to see it as much. Now we have gone and we have drilled a 1/2 millimeter hole on the top of our door for our door locks, as well as another 1/2 millimeter hole in there, which you can't really see, but that's going to be for our window cranks. So those are set up and ready to go. We just need to get that painted and get that assembled. Now there is an issue with these doors, and that is the door pulls are missing. There is a leather door pull that sits up in this top section up here, pretty much between the door latch down there, which we've done with the bare metal foil, and the door lock. To correct that, I have 3D modeled up and printed my own set of door pulls here, which we'll get these painted up, cut them off, and they are going to go in right up here on this section up here. And finally, we have our front seats done. These are 3D printed seats from Black Box STL over on Colts 3D. He does some fantastic stuff. I really like his seats. He's got some awesome seat sets in there, but pretty much everything he designs is really, really nice. And with the pattern that he's got molded in there, it almost perfectly matches in with the actual kit rear seats. So that looks a lot better than the original kit seats, and I am liking how that looks. And that's going to wrap up the Firebird update. Now for the Super Bee build, we focused on the engine, and the engine is completely finished for the most part. I've got to get it in, but we'll talk about that here in a minute. So we did go with the kit's engine block and transmission, as well as the kit's heads and the kit's exhaust manifolds. Other than that, we have our pulleys are from off the sprue. The alternator is a Motoboss part, which I have scaled down to make it fit a little bit better with the engine. We have Motoboss's oil pan, as well as his oil filter and his fuel filter. And then we've got the Motoboss carbs, which the 6-pack carbs just look fantastic. I did have to scale them down a little bit. I think we're closer to 1/25th scale, maybe a little bit smaller, but I had to shrink them just a little to get them to fit in line properly. Now for the valve covers, we went with my Mopar Performance valve covers. These are my 3D printed designs, and I really like the way they look with the engine. We did not go with the Hemi Orange. I told you guys I just wasn't going to. I've mixed up a really, really dark candy green by doing a combination of candy green and candy black, and that's what I did on the block. And then the heads are in the body color over a very bright silver. I want to say I used LP48 sparkling silver, and I think that's just going to tie in really nicely with the body. We have wired everything up, and we do have it wired up in the correct firing order. It's the nice thing about having 3D printed distributors is that I get the correct order, so I can actually wire these correctly. It doesn't take but an extra like 5 minutes to go look up the firing order and then just wire it up correctly. We've got some really nice ProTech wire looms in here, getting everything nice and straight and orderly. I'm really happy with this. I added in, which you can barely see in there, an electrical diode to simulate my fuel filter that runs up here along the carbs on the fuel rail side. We have a throttle linkage, which is basically just a piece of wire that I ran across the carbs over here. And then we used another one of those return springs from Mr. Model to link that to the front of the intake manifold. So we've got that spring in there. So that's got all of our nice little details done. And then we just need to add in our ignition coil. That'll go right in here. Yeah, we also cut out, I remember telling you guys that I was cutting this out and replacing it. We did replace it with the Motoboss starter, which looks so much better. So I'm really happy with how this has turned out. Now for the air cleaner, I 3D modeled and designed up a replacement for the kit part. The kit part just had no definition to it at all. So this is my 6-pack air cleaner. This is based off of the Mopar Performance Aftermarket. Now I've got 2 bases. So the kit's base is this rectangular thing. This is the original OEM shaker style hood. You would find this on, I think, the Cudas as well. And then I have 3D modeled that with just a lower profile, because theirs is very tall, as it has the water dam around it. But the Mopar aftermarkets, you have the option to get one that doesn't have that real tall lip around it, which allows you to get a little more airflow into the air filter. And then this base is the rounded base. If you look at the aftermarket air cleaners, most of them from Mopar Performance have this rounded base on them. So this one's more of the OEM style, and then this is the aftermarket. Now this is 3 pieces. You've got the base, then you've got the filter element, which I've modeled to have some ridges in it, kind of like a quarter. I'll put a picture up over here somewhere. And then there's the top, and the top has 2 little pins that locate down in here. Now I've had to make some modifications to mine because I've got it sitting on top of Motoboss's carburetors, and he's got all the detail, including the little top bit here. In comparison, these are the kit carbs, which are just kind of completely flat over the top. So this was originally designed to just drop straight onto the kit carbs. Now to clear that, I did add a square opening in the center of the filter, and I've modified that with a little bit with a Dremel, because I was trying to figure out this is hitting on something. And I think it's just a matter of the way those carbs sit and the way the engine sits, and the fact that my air cleaner, I think, is maybe about a 0.5 millimeter taller. So there's just going to be, it's going to be interesting to see how it turns out towards the end here. But all in all, I am really, really happy with how all of this works out. Just going to go ahead and drop that right like that. Now I did go ahead and add a 1.5 millimeter tall bit of photo etch all the way around, so I just have a little bit of photo etch mesh around the filter, which looks a lot more like what you'd see on the actual car, and I'm really happy with how that sits. Now I've mentioned some fit issues. The instructions basically tell you to go ahead and add this in and glue everything into place, and then fit this up into the body. I'm not real sure how that's going to work. Remember, this is their block, it's their heads, and their exhaust. At least I was smart enough before I glued everything down to test this before. I thought my valve covers were going to be a problem because the breathers stick out so much. I thought this might give me some clearance issues, so I went ahead and did a test fit. But doing my test fit, my valve covers are not the issue. My valve cover's clear. Now my issue is that the inside of the engine bay doesn't clear their exhaust. Now the block isn't 3D printed, the heads aren't printed, and the exhaust manifold isn't printed. This is all their geometry. None of that has been modified, and it does not clear their engine bay. So I'm not real sure how that's supposed to work, but it just doesn't. So to get this thing in, what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get the interior completely finished and in place. I'm then going to have to get the chassis in, but not glued down, so I've got some wiggle room so that I can come in from the top, come in under the interior, but over the chassis and wiggle in between there, and then get this pushed down onto the engine mounts as far down as I can so that I can have enough room to actually clear the hood. If I do it right, there's just enough room in there to clear the hood with the air cleaner on. So that is going to be a very tight fit. And like I said, it's not because of my modifications. It's just because of the way their exhaust manifold sits. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me because that is all their geometry. And everything's sitting exactly where it's supposed to be. Alright guys, so that is going to be a wrap for this video. I'm going to have this scheduled to come out on Saturday, so by the time you start seeing this video, we're going to be in San Antonio, hopefully having a nice relaxing weekend. I'm not going to get any building done that weekend at all. So, I don't know, we may or may not have a video next week. We'll just have to see what happens. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I always appreciate you watching the videos, and I will catch you on the next one.